hear the name Ricky Williams,
The handoff is to Williams, running room left side, to the 30, to the 20, to the end zone, and a touchdown.
what immediately comes to mind? The marijuana suspensions, the sudden retirement that shocked the NFL world, the famous wedding dress photo on the cover of ESPN magazine. For most fans, Williams' legacy is wrapped in controversy and what-ifs rather than greatness. But that narrative isn't just incomplete, it's flat out wrong. The truth? Ricky Williams was a force of nature who dominated the NFL when he was on the field. A rare combination of power, speed, and vision that defensive coordinators had no answer for. And it's time we set the record straight. Before we dive into his NFL career, let's remember what made Williams such a coveted prospect in the first place. At the University of Texas, Williams wasn't just good, he was historically dominant. Williams arrived at Texas as a highly touted recruit, but few could have predicted the sustained dominance he would unleash. Over 4 years, he developed from a promising freshman into one of the most decorated players in college football history. His first 3 seasons under head coach John Mackovic saw impressive production, including a monstrous 1,893-yard, 25-touchdown campaign in 1997. That year alone would have sealed most players' legacies. Then in 1998, under new head coach Mack Brown, Williams elevated his game to an even higher level.
We have just had a successful recruiting class. Our first signee just happens to be what I feel like may be the best player in college football that will be returning for next year.
Brown smartly built the offense around Ricky, who responded with 2,124 rushing yards and 27 touchdowns. Texas surged from 4-7 to 9-3.
Williams looking for daylight. Got it. Touchdown, Texas. Ricky Williams pulls his way in. Touchdown. Well, 5 touchdowns is certainly going to catch the Heisman voters' attention. Williams got it again. And the records start to fall.
And Brown has often credited Williams for laying the foundation of his future success at the program. What many don't realize is that Williams put together perhaps the greatest 3-year run in college football history at that time. From 1996 to 1998, Williams amassed an astounding 5,289 rushing yards and 64 rushing touchdowns, the most rushing yards in a 3-year span at that time. That's more than some entire teams gained over the same period. His consistency was just as impressive as his peak performances. Williams rushed for 100-plus yards in 31 of 45 career games. He had 15 games with 150-plus yards and 5 games with 200-plus yards, including a jaw-dropping 318-yard explosion against Rice in 1998. This wasn't a player who occasionally popped off. This was relentless dominance. Perhaps most remarkably, in his Heisman-winning 1998 campaign, a season where he carried the ball 361 times, Williams never lost a fumble. Not once. In fact, he only had 1 lost fumble in his final 2 college seasons combined.
Ricky Williams runs to the Hall of Fame, cuts back. Ricky Williams, touchdown!
For a back touching the ball 400-plus times in a season, that level of ball security is almost supernatural. Williams wasn't just a one-dimensional runner either. In an era where running backs weren't expected to be significant receiving threats, Williams still compiled 78 career receptions for 624 yards. Combined with his rushing totals, Williams produced 6,903 yards from scrimmage and 74 total touchdowns, modern RB1 fantasy stats before the concept even existed. His 1998 Heisman Trophy wasn't just expected, it was inevitable. Williams received 714 first-place votes, more than twice as many as runner-up Michael Bishop. And when he broke Tony Dorsett's 22-year-old NCAA career rushing record, finishing with 6,279 yards, Williams cemented himself as one of college football's all-time greats.
This for a whole season of bragging one way or the other. And Stockton nails it. And the Horns win it. The Horns hook their arch rival. The man of the day, the season, and the last couple of years is Ricky Williams.
Further delay, the Downtown Athletic Club is proud to award the 1998 Heisman Memorial Trophy to Ricky Williams of the University.
The New Orleans Saints were so convinced of Williams' greatness that they made one of the most audacious trades in NFL history, trading their entire draft class to move up and select him. Let that sink in. 8 picks, an entire draft, sacrificed for one player. Head coach Mike Ditka was so confident in Williams that he posed for a wedding photo with him, symbolizing the franchise's commitment to their new star. That kind of move created impossible expectations. From day one, Williams wasn't just expected to be great, he was expected to be transcendent. What made Williams truly special wasn't just the numbers, it was how he achieved them. Unlike some statistical compilers who accumulated yards through volume, Williams was a genuine human highlight reel. His runs were visually jaw-dropping, explosive jump cuts, devastating stiff arms, surprising breakaway speed, and remarkable balance through contact. At 5 feet 10 inches and 225 pounds, Williams defied conventional categorization. He was built like a fullback but ran with the agility of a scatback, a physical anomaly that left NFL scouts scrambling for comparisons. Some likened him to Earl Campbell for his raw power, others to Barry Sanders for his incredible hip flexibility and change of direction ability. But the truth is, Williams' style wasn't like anyone else's. He combined Campbell's punishing force with Sanders' elusiveness, creating a hybrid running style that defensive players had no template for stopping. NFL GMs raved about his physical traits even before the combine, recognizing that Williams possessed a once-in-a-generation combination of attributes. What made Williams even more unique was his humility. After bulldozing defenders and breaking off highlight reel runs, Williams never celebrated. He simply handed the ball to the referee and jogged back to the huddle. That unusual combination of on-field ferocity and quiet demeanor made Williams legendary without him ever trying to be flashy.
Hand off to Williams up the middle. 10, 5, to the goal line, to the end zone. Touchdown, Ricky Williams.
This distinctive style would continue to define Williams throughout his pro career. Williams' time in New Orleans is often overlooked, dismissed as disappointing given the astronomical price the Saints paid to acquire him. But a closer examination reveals a young player finding his footing amid extraordinary pressure. In his rookie season in 1999, injuries limited Williams to 12 games, but he still managed to rush for 884 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not spectacular numbers, but promising for a rookie playing behind a mediocre offensive line. His sophomore campaign showed significant improvement, 1,000 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns in 10 games before an injury cut his season short. That's a 16-game pace of 1,600 yards, elite production by any standard. In his final season with New Orleans in 2001, Williams rushed for 1,245 yards and 6 touchdowns, further establishing himself as a legitimate NFL starter despite playing in an offensive system that didn't fully maximize his talents. What many forget is the circus-like atmosphere surrounding Williams in New Orleans.
Ricky Williams and Willie Roaf ahead of him, bulldozing away and leaping over Roaf as Williams' first career touchdown.
Ditka had essentially bet his coaching career on Williams' success, creating an environment where anything short of immediate superstardom would be viewed as failure. Adding to the pressure, Williams conducted interviews while wearing his helmet due to his social anxiety disorder, a condition not widely understood at the time. Rather than receiving support, Williams was often mocked by media members who interpreted his behavior as eccentric or aloof. Despite these challenges, Williams showed flashes of brilliance that foretold the dominance to come. His combination of size, speed, and instincts was evident even when the supporting cast around him failed to create opportunities. While Williams had a solid if unspectacular start in New Orleans, it was after his trade to Miami that his true NFL greatness emerged. The 2002 season is the one NFL historians should be talking about more. Williams didn't just lead the NFL in rushing, he demolished the competition with 1,853 yards on the ground. Add in 16 rushing touchdowns and nearly 400 receiving yards, and you're looking at one of the greatest individual seasons by a running back in the 2000s.
Again inside the 30, and the best run of the day by far as Ricky Williams.
Let's put that 2002 season in perspective. Williams carried the ball 383 times, a workload that would break most running backs. He averaged 115.8 rushing yards per game, consistently producing against defenses designed specifically to stop him. What makes this even more impressive? The 2002 Dolphins weren't exactly an offensive juggernaut. With Jay Fiedler at quarterback and no elite receivers, opposing defenses knew exactly what was coming and still couldn't stop it. Williams regularly faced 8-man boxes designed specifically to contain him. Former defenders who faced Williams describe a nightmare matchup: a 230-pound wrecking ball with the speed to turn the corner and the power to run through tackles. His running style was unique, a blend of patience and explosion. Williams would wait for his blocks to develop, then burst through openings with surprising acceleration for a man his size. And once he reached the second level, he could either outrun defensive backs or lower his shoulder and punish them. Just as he did at Texas, Williams showed remarkable versatility in Miami. In an era before receiving backs were common, Williams caught 47 passes in 2002 and 50 in 2003. This dual threat ability made him even more valuable than his rushing numbers alone would suggest. In 2003, Williams followed up with another strong season, rushing for 1,372 yards and 9 touchdowns. That's 3,225 rushing yards in just 2 seasons with Miami, a pace that would have put him among the all-time greats had he maintained it throughout his career. What really separated Williams from his contemporaries wasn't just his physical gifts, it was his mindset. In July 2004, at the height of his powers, Williams shocked the sports world by announcing his retirement.
Okay, if this keeps on going, I'm not going to be able actually to make it very much longer. And I've been in talks with the Dolphins about renegotiating my contract. And so we went to the Dolphins and I said, I can tell if you guys don't do something and you just keep feeding me the ball, like, this is not going to last. You guys need to take care of me.
The media narrative quickly painted him as unreliable, selfish, and wasteful of his talents. This decision came shortly after it was revealed Williams had tested positive for marijuana for a 3rd time, facing a 4-game suspension. But rather than serve the suspension, Williams chose to step away from the game entirely, a decision that baffled fans and analysts alike. What we understand now, but couldn't grasp then, is that Williams was dealing with social anxiety disorder in an era when mental health was still taboo in professional sports. He wasn't running from football, he was running toward well-being. "I didn't quit football because I failed a drug test," Williams later explained. "I failed a drug test because I was ready to quit football." During his time away from the NFL, Williams studied holistic medicine at the California College of Ayurveda, became a certified yoga instructor, and embarked on a spiritual journey of self-discovery. While the sports media painted him as a burnout, he was actually rebuilding himself from the inside out. Williams traveled to Australia, Japan, and throughout Asia, studying alternative healing practices and meditation techniques. He lived in a tent in the Australian outback, stripped away from the material excesses of NFL stardom, searching for a peace he hadn't found in football. In today's NFL, where players like Calvin Ridley and Lane Johnson are applauded for prioritizing mental health, Williams would be viewed as a pioneer. Instead, he was vilified for being a decade ahead of the conversation. His decision to walk away from millions of dollars at the peak of his career wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a profound act of self-awareness. How many players continue collecting paychecks while their physical and mental health deteriorates? Williams had the courage to say, "Enough." What truly separates the greatest athletes isn't just their peak performance, it's their resilience. And Williams' comeback story is one of the most underappreciated in sports history. After a brief stint with the CFL's Toronto Argonauts in 2006, where he rushed for 526 yards on just 109 carries, Williams returned to the NFL in 2007, rejoining the Dolphins after serving a suspension for his previous violations of the league's substance abuse policy. Many assumed Williams would be a shell of his former self. After all, running backs typically decline after 30, even without extended absences from the game. But Williams defied those expectations. In 2007 and 2008, he split carries with Ronnie Brown, showing flashes of his old brilliance in limited action. Then in 2009, when Brown suffered a season-ending injury, Williams stepped back into the feature role and reminded the NFL of his greatness. At age 32, ancient by running back standards, Williams rushed for 1,121 yards and 11 touchdowns, averaging an impressive 4.7 yards per carry. This comeback season wasn't just good, it was historically exceptional. Only a handful of running backs in NFL history have rushed for over 1,000 yards at age 32 or older. Williams followed this with productive seasons in both 2010 with the Dolphins and 2011 with the Ravens, demonstrating a remarkable longevity that belied the physical punishment he had endured throughout his career. This longevity allowed Williams to join an elite club that few fans realize, the 10,000-yard rushers. Only 31 players in NFL history have reached this milestone, putting Williams in the top 1% of all running backs to ever play the game, and he accomplished this despite missing significant time in what should have been the prime years of his career. Perhaps Williams' most significant contribution to football wasn't on the field at all, but in how he changed the conversation around mental health in professional sports.
What I found at the core of most of our psychological ills is culture, is the content, is the structure, right? It's like when you go to the NFL, they don't care about your soul, right? They care if you can perform on Sundays. Because if you think of the amount of life, the amount of vitality that football players sacrifice for the glory of the game, for the fame, for the paycheck, for the accomplishment, it's a huge sacrifice. You know, the life expectancy for a professional football player is 57 years old. So the question I have for any football player is, when you fast forward to the end of your life, okay, does it feel like it was worth it?
In an era when athletes were expected to maintain a facade of invincibility, Williams openly discussed his struggles with social anxiety disorder. His honesty was met with ridicule at first, but it planted seeds for a cultural shift that would blossom years later. "Football is a safe place for me," Williams once explained. "When I'm in the game, I don't have to worry about anything else. But when the game ends, that's when the real challenges begin." Williams began using marijuana not as a recreational escape, but as a form of self-medication for his anxiety, something medical professionals now widely recognize as a legitimate therapeutic use. Yet in the early 2000s, the NFL had zero tolerance and even less understanding. Through his public struggles, Williams inadvertently became an advocate for a more nuanced approach to mental health in professional sports. Today's NFL has mental health specialists on staff with every team, a development Williams would have benefited from enormously during his playing days. Williams also challenged conventional ideas about what athletes should look like and how they should train. While his contemporaries focused exclusively on weight training and traditional conditioning, Williams incorporated yoga, meditation, and holistic practices into his regimen. These approaches, once considered fringe, are now mainstream in NFL training facilities. Teams employ yoga instructors, mindfulness coaches, and nutrition specialists who emphasize many of the same principles Williams was ridiculed for embracing 2 decades ago. When we examine Williams' career numbers with proper context, his greatness becomes even more apparent. Williams finished his NFL career with 10,009 rushing yards, 66 rushing touchdowns, and an average of 4.1 yards per carry. Impressive numbers on their own, but truly remarkable when you consider the time he missed. Williams played the equivalent of just 9 full seasons in the NFL. When you calculate his per-season averages, 1,112 yards and 7.3 touchdowns, Williams clearly produced at an elite level when on the field. What's most telling is his consistency across different teams and systems. Williams produced 1,000-yard seasons with both the Saints and Dolphins, demonstrating that his success wasn't simply a product of a particular scheme or supporting cast. His versatility also stands out. Williams wasn't just a bruiser. He was a complete back who caught 342 passes for 2,606 yards in his career. He could pass, block, catch out of the backfield, and even return punts early in his career. That dual threat ability, which Williams showcased back in college with his 78 receptions for 624 yards, translated perfectly to the NFL. This was the blueprint for the modern running back, a player who could hurt defenses in multiple ways before such versatility became an expectation. When comparing Williams to his contemporaries, we must acknowledge that he played during an era of legendary running backs: LaDainian Tomlinson, Marshall Faulk, Edgerrin James, and Shaun Alexander, among others. Yet when Williams was at his best, particularly in 2002, he stood shoulder to shoulder with any of them. So why doesn't Williams get the respect his career deserves? The answer lies in our cultural evolution. Williams played in an era when athletes were expected to sacrifice everything for their sport. The concept of a professional athlete prioritizing mental health was foreign. Players were supposed to be gladiators, not philosophers. But Williams refused to conform. He questioned assumptions about what an athlete should be. He explored alternative medicine when others stuck to traditional methods. He spoke openly about his struggles with anxiety when others suffered in silence. Just as he did at Texas, where his unique running style combined Earl Campbell's power with Barry Sanders' agility, Williams forged his own path in the NFL and beyond. He was never a carbon copy of anyone else, on or off the field. That quiet confidence extended to his playing style as well. Unlike the showboats of his era, Williams never celebrated after big plays. He simply handed the ball to the referee and returned to the huddle. This combination of on-field dominance and off-field humility created a persona unlike any other star of his generation. Today, we're witnessing a complete reversal in how we view these qualities. Players who prioritize mental health are considered courageous. Alternative training methods like yoga and meditation, practices Williams championed 2 decades ago, are now standard in NFL training facilities. The numbers alone tell us Williams was great. Over 10,000 rushing yards, a 4.1 yards per carry average across his career, 5 seasons with over 1,000 yards despite missing significant time in his prime. But his true impact transcends statistics. Williams showed that vulnerability isn't weakness, that authenticity matters more than conformity, that there's strength in stepping away when you need to heal. Since retiring, Williams has built on this legacy, becoming a respected advocate for mental health awareness and alternative medicine. He's founded a wellness company, hosts retreats, and continues to challenge conventional thinking about health and performance. If Ricky Williams had played in today's NFL, he wouldn't just be respected. He'd be celebrated as a visionary who understood that greatness isn't measured solely by yards gained, but by lives impacted. Ricky Williams wasn't just better than you remember. He was better than you ever thought, and it's time we recognize that.
After the catch, Ricky Williams explodes down the sideline.